Hey guys, so I am back today to show you how I do my drips like this one on this hot chocolate mug. So for this, you're just going to need your epoxy and some colorant. For this, I mixed 20 milliliters of epoxy. I'm using Counterculture artist resin and this chocolate color acrylic. I used 1 drop of black and 1 drop of the white dye. And you just want to be careful not to add too much acrylic because it can make it super stringy and not set up right at the end. This was about 30 to 35 minutes in. I was just stirring it, checking the texture. And if you're not sure about the texture and the thickness and all of that good stuff, just test it on the side of the cup. You can see there where I'm kind of taking my stir stick and just watching the drip. That's dripping like super quickly, so I know that it's not ready for me yet, because if I were to put that on my cup, it would drip all the way to the bottom and then some. Obviously, if that's the look that you're going for, then you can do it then, but I normally let it set up a little bit longer than that. This is probably about an hour in. This took quite a bit longer than I thought it would, but I think, a lot of it depends on your, humidity, temperature, stuff like that. I live in Washington State, so it's getting a lot colder, and I feel like that's what made it take so long to set up. But you could see there that I did test my drips again on the side of the cup. And I find that when mine is ready to go, it's really like a taffy consistency, like the consistency of either like a saltwater taffy when you pull it apart, or like a Laffy Taffy. It's very stringy, very sticky. Sorry, I'm kind of out of frame there, but I'm just gathering some up on my stir stick and then spreading it across the top rim of the cup. Now, from what I understand, because these drips are made of epoxy, you can either do them over top of your last layer and not worry about epoxying over them, or you can do them before your last layer and epoxy over them. I tend to do them before my last layer because when you're applying them, unless you're like a major pro at doing it, it does get a little messy on the rim, and I like to go in and clean up the rims before I add my last layer of epoxy. So you'll see it gets a little rough there, a little messy. So you just go on and add. I always start thin, obviously, because you can always add more. It's a lot harder to take away, especially when the epoxy has already set for such a long amount of time. It's super thick and super sticky, so it's hard to take away. So I'm just going in and adding a small amount around the rim, and they'll slowly start to drip. And I really try to, I was tipping it obviously to show you guys in the video what I'm doing, but I really try to keep my cups straight while I'm doing this, because if you have them turned or tipped a certain direction, those drips are going to go in that direction eventually. If you saw at the beginning of the video, and you'll probably see at the end, they did sort of veer off to one direction with this cup. I'm not super happy with the drips, but I just wanted to show you all the overall process of doing your drips and like the texture of the epoxy that you want before you start them. So really try to keep your hands still when you're doing this, or your cup still, or I should say vertical, straight up. Don't tip it too much. In the early stages, I guess it's not so much of a problem because the drips haven't started yet. But once the drips really start taking shape and you start, tipping it one direction or another, it's just really they're gonna start flowing that direction. So I've finished adding all the way around the rim, and now I'm kind of just adding a little bit more in areas where I want more of a drip, and kind of correcting other areas, if you will, just going around the cup and seeing if it is to my liking and how it's looking so far. So here I'm just taking my little torch and just doing some quick bursts of heat to pop some of those bubbles and get some of those drips moving. You can totally omit this step. You don't have to use heat at all. But I was seeing some pretty large bubbles in there, and I just wanted that specific area to move a little bit more. But you do just definitely want to do this sparingly, because even those little tiny bursts of heat will get this moving so much, and you'll end up with drips all the way to the bottom of your cup. If that's not what you're going for, then just dial it back and don't use so much heat. So now I'm just checking out my cup again, kind of editing, adding more where I want more. If I want the drips going in a different direction or something like that, a little bit thicker, then I'm just kind of going in and fixing that. So I'll go ahead and speed up the video until we get closer to the end. So I did just want to add that if you end up using too much heat, or maybe you didn't wait long enough for your epoxy to set up and it's really just running more than you prefer, you can tip the cup and sort of even out the drips. I see a lot of people saying that they turn their cups upside down and then back over like every few minutes or so. That's definitely something that you can do. I do not prefer that. I feel like my drips don't look as organic that way. They don't look as drippy, if that makes any sense. You can also put them on the turner once you get them where you want them, and it should help even them out. Again, to me, I experimented with this cup and I thought it just wasn't looking as organic and drippy as I would like it. So I took it off the turner and just let it set on the counter. It did drip a little bit more, but not too much. But yeah, just wanted to give you guys a general idea of how to do the drips overall. Remember, you can add glow powders to these to get them glowing, glitter, chameleon micas. You can add clay sprinkles. Just really have fun with it. Be creative. And yeah, I hope this video was helpful for some of you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.